I'd like to welcome everybody to the November DAS meeting. So calling this meeting to order. First item is, are there any new members who'd like to introduce themselves? Not seeing any. But if there are, please speak up. We want to say hello. I don't think so. Huh? Is there somebody? Nope, I don't think so. Okay. Well, welcome if you are new, if you're just shy. We welcome you to our club, and we're glad that you joined us. I'm sorry that you don't want to introduce yourself if there's anybody new. But, you know, if you need more information, feel free to contact any of our officers and we'll help get you started in the club. All right. So first question is, I've heard that there are some issues from some people possibly getting our Zoom invites. Do note that all of our Zoom invites for our meetings, for the Tuesday night meetings, for this meeting, all the meetings that we do, they are sent to the official club email roster. So if you have any issues with your email address on the roster, please contact Bob Treblecock to verify your email address to make sure it's correct. Because that's the way I am sending them, just to let you guys know. Is there anybody with any specific issues?
Rob, you also might want to highlight that even though you're sending it, it's not coming from your address.
That's correct. It comes from the official club Gmail address, which is dasmountcuba@gmail.com. That's been our club email address for like 20 years now. So we've been using that same email address, but it doesn't come from me. So don't do a search for me. Do a search for Delaware Astronomical Society or something like that. Okay. So other news, we are looking at getting owner scope programs started up again. Chris Horrocks is heading up that effort. We've been working to gather up the scopes and get them ready for loaning. And he's working out a procedure by which we could get the scopes, loan them out, safely cleanse them for the next person and get them to the next person. So he will head up that effort and he'll make it all work. I've been working to put it on the website. So on the website, I updated the loaner scope page with all kinds of photos that I took several months ago when we were still in the observatory. So most of them have decent pictures on them, not all, but most. And there's some nice descriptions along with it. If you're looking at the page and you see any way we can update it or improve it, please let me know. It's just an initial page with information. It's much better than what was there before, but I do think it could use some improvement. So I'd like to keep working on that. So the next thing I wanted to mention is something that Sheila was asking just a couple minutes ago, and that is we have the possibility of doing some dark sky sessions or star parties where everybody stays remote from everybody else. Like we could be at the same event, but not looking through the same scopes and controlling our interactions with one another. So if somebody would be really interested in setting up something like that, we would welcome that. And just so everybody knows, you know, you'd have to define whatever the rules are going to be, like nobody looking through other people's eyepieces or everybody stays 10 feet apart or something like that. So come up with a set of rules that everybody can agree to, and we need to make sure we hold to that because we don't want anyone catching COVID at our star parties. That would be bad. So we need to make sure if we do that, that we have a good plan in place and the person organizing it takes responsibility for that. So that would be great if somebody wants to do it. We do have a couple of sites that are leaving the possibility open, like Fair Hill, and Jeff can give you information about that if you'd like to set something up with them. We have some other sites that aren't letting us do it, like we can't hold it at Mount Cuba currently, and some of the other parks, we have some issues with doing it there, but some of the state parks are perfectly fine with it, so it depends. So please let us know if you're interested and we can help you. Jeff.
Rob, you want to give 2 minutes on Fair Hill?
Sure.
Yeah, so Fair Hill Park, which is just a bit west of Newark, is for several years has granted our club after hours access to enjoy the night sky with a couple of caveats. Number one, any visits have to be prearranged and have to come through me. They just want to know who's out there and what they're doing and all that good stuff. But Fair Hill, for those that live close to the Newark, Elkton area, is super, super close and relatively dark. for this part of the world. They do have a request for us to keep it under 10 people. The area that we typically go to is fairly spacious, so can accommodate 10 people very, very easily and very well spread out. So while the request has to go to the park through me, don't think that I have to be the initiator of an event. If somebody has an interest in an event or wants to go out there, by all means, reach out. And it's also possible that we would hold, a couple of people could go out to the Fair Hill Park site, and I don't have to be included in that. So if anyone had an interest, please just reach out to me, shoot me an email, give me a call. And, like to give them at least a couple days heads up. I know that's tough with weather being as unpredictable as it is, but, to keep the good relationship with them, as much fair warning as we can give them. 24 hours is maybe okay. So if there's any questions about that, again, please feel free to ask me now, or if you want to talk to me offline about it. It is a pretty nice site.
The only thing I would just I wonder whether they've asked to keep it below 10 people. I don't know what the turnout would be anyway, but it might be popular because nobody's doing a whole heck of a lot. I wonder whether it would work to have 2 10-person maximum groups that were sort of like separate pods, because it's a little artificial when you're outside,
right,
to say 10 people only. I mean, it's a matter of how much area are you covering.
So the method behind the madness is it's a little bit more subtle than that. And what it comes down to is, if it is an event, then an event needs to go through the Cecil County or something Board of Health. And I talked to my point of contact at the park, and I was like, well, what's an event versus a couple of people? And I said, well, what would not be an event? She goes, well, just a couple of people going out to observe. And I said, well, there's kind of a fuzzy line between those two. And basically her opinion was, if we can interpret that as less than 10 people. And so my hunch is, if more than that wanted to go out, obviously you're playing the weather game there, but there's no reason we couldn't go out on subsequent nights to accommodate more people wanting to go out. So, but we'll see. My opinion is, start parties don't often gather more than that many people. So, but I agree with you, Rick, given everyone being cooped up, there could be an outpouring of interest, but we'll handle it on a case-by-case basis.
And I'd just like to emphasize that if we do this, and whoever organizes it needs to set some ground rules that everybody can abide by, and everybody hears those ground rules. Because what we don't want is for the person who set it up, and then you go there and one person says, well, I expected that there wouldn't be anyone looking through eyepieces, and then somebody goes and looks through an eyepiece because you're not. Yeah. You just want to make sure everybody's on the same page beforehand. So that's quite important, in my opinion.
Yeah, because my feeling is, as we're well into this quarantine, it would be nice to start to socialize, but still being mindful that we need to, stay diligent, remain careful, especially as the cases are seeming to surge right now. So, but thankfully I feel us spreading out. 10 people in our usual spot at Fair Hill, we could be 30 feet apart and, and still have a nice time. And, I would venture to guess that would be an extremely low risk way to go about it. So
yeah, we can shout to each other
and saying, "What are you looking at?"
There you go.
Yeah, the worst thing you might ill is a sore throat the next day. Then.
Yeah, and then you panic because, oh my God, it's a sore throat.
Yeah. Okay. So I also want to update you on some things at the observatory. As you will recall, the observatory is currently closed to visitors. However, they're actually working quite hard on the telescope. They're doing a lot of construction. They're taking advantage of this opportunity to get it all built. Dave, do you want to speak to that? Maybe not.
Hold on. I just was I got to unmute myself here. Yeah, the foundation is going along quite quickly, and they should have the building up. I'm thinking around February, the building should be up. So it's going quite quickly. So we're making a lot of progress. And like I said, soon we'll have the largest telescope on the East Coast.
Fantastic.
So
I also want to point out in terms of outreach events, currently with outreach events, we're having no in-person outreach. Even if somebody wants to volunteer to do it, it's really not a good idea. However, if you want to do an outreach event over Zoom, if you're interested, if you missed it, by all means, you can set something like that up and do like an outreach event for schools and stuff like that. So by all means, if you're interested, you can contact us or contact the school or whoever wants the outreach event and just do it. And that would be awesome. Let's see. Bob, did you want to give your announcement for the dues?
Okay, yeah, we've started collecting the dues for 2021. The dues remain $30 a year. And about half the club has renewed so far. So we're making good progress there. If you haven't renewed yet, you should have gotten an email from me this afternoon that actually is from Das Mount Cuba, but it should be a dues reminder. There's 3 options on how you can pay. Actually, there's actually 4, I guess. One is you can mail a check to me, and my address is in those emails, or you can just send $30 to dasmountcuba@gmail.com through a PayPal account. That would work. And then in the email I sent, there's a link that you can click, and that will either let you pay via PayPal, or if you don't have PayPal, it'll let you pay with a credit card. And I guess the 4th way is you can click on the delastro.org website for a new member, and you can just send $30 through that link, and I'll recognize you that you're not a new member when your name comes up on our member list. So there's really 4 ways you can pay. I will give one warning. The link in the focus doesn't work. It'll give you an error, but if you copy and paste and put it into a browser, that same link, it will work. So you can also use the link in the focus if you want, but you can't click it on directly.
But was that something I was supposed to fix? It's kind of ringing a bell somehow.
It's the same link that's in the email, so it's got to be something to do with formatting of some sort. So we'll try to get it right next time.
Gosh,
It's okay.
remind me.
Don't worry. You did a great job with the focus, so don't worry about it. You'll be
Yeah, another wonderful issue.
Yeah, well,
Love
thank
it.
you, Sheila. You contributed more to it.
Wasn't the only thing.
No, that's true.
All right, Jeff, I think we are ready. I went over all of our stuff. I think we are ready for the first presentation.
Oh, I was going to latch on and just show people something related to the dues.
Okay.
So just want to really reinforce that the PayPal, I would say is probably the easiest way to renew. And the big thing that we want to reinforce is you don't actually need a PayPal account to pay with PayPal. You actually can just use a regular credit card or debit card. And just to show you guys how that works, let me see if I can figure this out. Bear with me here. Hey, Rob, how do I share? Oh, there it is.
The green button.
The big button that says share.
Yeah, that would be it.
So let me hang on a second. Let me know, you guys seeing this all right?
Yep.
So this is the email that I received from Bob originally back in late October, but I'm assuming the renewal emails are not terribly dissimilar. And here's all the information, the address for the check, but here's the PayPal link. And the key thing that I wanted to emphasize is if you click the PayPal link, nothing like a live demo to ensure that something, yeah, so here we go. It takes me to the case here where it says to log in with your PayPal account, or down here is this button that says pay with debit or credit card. So again, if you don't have a PayPal account, all you got to do is hit that button down there, and hopefully no personal information will pop up right now.
It's on YouTube, Jeff.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's a PayPal guest checkout, and all you have to do is put in your credit card information, so on and so forth. And it will renew that way. So again, you can pay your dues without needing to have an actual PayPal account. Although if you do have a PayPal account, it's even a little touch easier.
You're a brave man, Jeff. I wouldn't have clicked that, knowing that it was going to pop up.
All right. So yeah, so today, this month is going to be a couple of member mini talks. So first off, Sid, are you prepared? Sydney, so Sydney arranged some time back, had sent out a survey to the club, polling the members for interest in different projects. And at the board meeting last week, Sydney reviewed those results. And I thought it would be interesting to have the same information shared amongst the club as a whole. So Sydney, whenever you're ready, it's all yours.
Thank you very much, Jeff. If Rob, if you could, can I do sharing now? Rob, can you activate for me? Okay, thanks. Okay, sharing, and let's see now. Hopefully, okay, looks like this is good. Screen 3, hitting share, and are you guys able to see it?
Yes.
Oh, okay, cool. Yep, we did a survey back in June. If you there's something here with a date, but I don't seem to see it now. And we I sent out the whole, well, basically a whole bunch of questions. One is basically, please rate the following DAS activities and their importance to you. That was question 1. Question 2, the activity you may be interested in participating. Question 3, if you could lead or host an activity, what would it be? And question 4, what would you like to do to help our club? What kind of special project would you like the club to start or would you like to help with? Basically, I'm pretty much in charge of the Survey Monkey, so I'm the Survey Monkey for the DAS. And every now and then I would send out a survey email. So if you see a sidastronomy@yahoo.com, chances are that's me sending a survey to our members. Now, so as to bore you, let's go with question number 1. Please rate the following DAS activities and their importance to you. The activities that were shown or were given in the survey was do heaters, making digital setting circles, mirror making, sun spotters, number 4, sun spotters, 5, quarantine activity, collecting micrometeorites, and the 5th one is 3D printing Badanov mask. And as per our survey, actually, extremely interested, do heaters and making digital curls are tied in there. And if you look at not interested, they're also tied, they're both tied. But I think in the pretty interested, the do heater won. So in a way, number 1 is do heaters out of the survey. Second is making digital circles. I think most people know what do heaters are. It's the strap you put around the telescope so you don't get condensation or dew buildup. Digital circles. I think Dave Grodzki can explain this better. I think it's a electronic device that you put in your stand so that it could monitor where it is, the azimuth and the altitude. Mirror making, we all know that. And sun spotters. Rob, could you explain sun spotters?
The sun spotter is basically a small telescope that's folded up into a triangle so that you have the objective on the first side of the triangle, and then there's a couple of mirrors inside of the triangle of wood that reflects the image around a couple times. So the sun enters that front objective lens and then bounces around a couple times, and then it shines onto a piece of paper after it goes through a lens that magnifies the image. So you get a nice image of the sun on a piece of paper, and you can see the sunspots and any details on the solar surface. It's pretty interesting.
Oh.
How large is the image?
It depends on the sun spotter that you make and the
Makes
effect
sense.
size and the eyepiece size that you use for magnification. So you
Got
can
it.
change the
Makes
size
sense.
as you want. It's up to you.
It's about 4 inches in diameter.
On the common one, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, that's larger than I had thought.
Right.
Cool.
Nice.
Next
And the
is
club actually has one. Is that listed on the loaner page, Rob?
Yes, I think it is. Yes, I listed it there. Yeah. Mhm. I could show a picture of that. Just give me a second.
Yeah, it might not be a bad idea to, fill in a couple of gaps about what these different projects really are. I mean,
Right. And even better, I can demonstrate the page that I just worked on.
mhm.
That could be lovely. All right, so let me share that. Sydney, can I share that real quick?
sure. Let me just stop my share here. Okay.
I'll enable yours. I'll let you re-enable in a minute. Might be kind of useful to show this. You guys see that okay?
Hmm.
So
Yep.
this page I was working on, you can see the loaner equipment all highlighted here. I worked
Nice.
with images,
Nice.
pretty and stuff. I have many
Excellent.
links here, so if you need to find out how the equipment works, you can click that link and it will tell you all about it. This is the sun spotter that was being discussed.
Ah,
And
okay.
Rob, give a sense of scale on that.
How big? Ish?
Yeah, probably about a foot in its biggest dimension,
Yeah,
maybe a foot and a half.
within a foot, but yeah. I mean, it's not huge.
Yeah.
There you go. We'll keep updating that
Cool.
page and you guys should check it out. It's a lot of fun. Sydney, you can share your screen again.
Cool. Cool.
But just I'll fill in the real thing about the digital setting circles. That is a means of putting some electronic hardware on your telescope that allows it to sync with a computer that has a planetarium or astronomical software, so that as you're moving the telescope around within the planetarium software, it tells you where in the sky you're pointing, and it can help you to find objects that could be otherwise a bit difficult to find. So
Thank
And you
you.
can run it using software on any iPhone, iPad, Android device over Bluetooth or Wi-Fi. So
yeah.
everybody's got a device, and it's not that hard to make the hardware.
Right.
Yeah, but
So the telescope becomes a mouse, basically. So you point the telescope at two known stars to calibrate it, or two known objects to calibrate it. And then you've got a software package like Sky Safari on your phone or on your tablet, and it has a pointer now that shows you where you're pointing in the sky, and you just move the telescope so the pointer is over the object you want to look at, and there it is in the eyepiece. It goes from star hopping, where you might find, if you're good at it, maybe 10 objects in an evening, where I can go out in an hour, I can go from one end of the sky to the other end of the sky and look at 60 objects in an hour. I remember the first time I tried to find Neptune star hopping, it took me a good hour, trying to find a little blue star that when I put magnification on it, that would show a disk. I found Neptune in 30 seconds when I was out a couple nights ago.
Yep.
So it really,
Cool.
increases your observing, you become much more efficient, and you're also going to see a lot of stuff that you would never think you could see. Like I see, there's a 10th magnitude galaxy that I would probably never try to look at star hopping. I just put the pointer over the top and look in the eyepiece, and if I can see it under those sky conditions, I'll see it. So that's the beauty of digital setting circles.
And Dave, the hardware total is only about $100, right?
It's less than that. It's about $60.
Okay.
Cool.
And if you wanted to buy one, commercially, like Nexus sells a standalone one. Their standalone unit alone is like $300. So it's a considerable cost savings.
And it's a really fun project to do, by all means.
That's true. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. And the fifth one is quarantine activity, collecting micrometeorites. I think Sheila, you're more familiar with this. Do you mind explaining it to the members?
Collecting micrometeorites, that's actually not an area of expertise for me. It's fascinating, but I have not done so. So someone else must be.
Yeah, so what you do
You
is,
got it, okay.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
so what you do, I
Dave,
mean,
of
there's
course.
always,
Thanks, Dave.
there's
Sorry,
always
Sheila.
meteorite.
No, that's all right. Go ahead, embarrass me. I don't know anything.
We'll let Sheila explain the Badenov masks then.
Okay.
Fair enough. I'm gonna sick Godzilla on you guys in a minute.
There's
Yeah, I can see
always,
he's coming at you. There he is. Ah.
Okay, I think Dave would like to explain it.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
so
Dave.
look, there's always meteoractive material coming in from space all the time. And so what happens is this stuff is coming down, this micro stuff comes down and it floats through the atmosphere and it gets caught in rainwater. So if you collect rainwater in a pan, a clean dish or a pan, and you look under a microscope, you can find these little tiny micrometeorites. That's what this is all about.
Wow.
Hey, that's interesting. I could probably do that.
Sure is.
Tell you,
It's been
the
raining lately.
instructions are actually in some of the old focuses. So I actually found it when searching through them and found it was really cool. And that's why I mentioned it when we were talking about possible projects, because it does sound really fun. I've never tried it, but the instructions
Yeah.
are in one of the old focuses.
I
Oh,
think I
wow.
think there's a Scientific American, one of the amateur scientists articles in the old Scientific American talks about it. And if you have the CD discs that are sold by Surplus Shed, the article might be in there. I'll take a look tomorrow when I go to work because that's where I've got it.
We should send out a link with information about it because some people might want to try it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd love to try it.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I assume that you'd be told like what there are lots of little particulates in rainwater, obviously, and you'd be told what.
Well, what you do is you take a magnet and you
Okay.
you go through the water with a magnet or put a magnet in the dish. So, you know, most of this stuff is iron-based or meteorites.
Yep. Yep.
So if it's sticking to the magnet, it's probably going to be a meteorite.
Nice. Okay, that's simple.
There's a fairly recent article in Sky and Telescope all about it
Oh,
within the last 3 or 4 months ago.
awesome.
Awesome.
And now we go to 3D printing Batinov mask. Sheila?
I'll let Godzilla speak for me. Okay?
But it's okay. I can explain this. This is what I know. 'Cause I've
Thank
3D
you. Take it away.
Because this is what I've done myself. Because there is a software in the internet. I don't know top of my head the exact link, but you can just put in the dimensions of your telescope, the focal length, the diameter of the objective, and it will calculate for you the mask. It looks like basically it looks like a Y, like you know, a comb, like a comb here and then comb here, a comb there. But and then you use that, you put it in front of the telescope, and it will produce what looks like an X, and there's in the middle horizontally, what crosses through the middle of it is another line. That line goes up and down depending on the focus. If it's exactly in the middle of that X there, it means you're focused. It really helps in doing focus, especially with stars. It's a lot easier. And as you can see, it's at the very last place. It's quite easy if you have a 3D printer, but it's available for $20 in some stores nowadays. Yeah. Now I think what's holding us back with the project is COVID. So I think the board have decided to, put this on hold until COVID blows over. That's why I'm only reporting it now after from July. It's been hold. Okay.
Yeah, but we
Uh,
just wanted to get some information out there because maybe there's a project that if it was seemed to be of great interest that maybe the board could start to do some preparation for when we come out of quarantine that we could actually kick off a project or two. So
I got an
Excellent.
image of one on my screen if you wanted to show it.
go for it.
Sure, go for it. Let me stop
Okay.
sharing. Yeah.
Cool.
There you go. Go ahead, Bill.
Okay, screen.
Take it away. Oh, you're down on my screen. There it is. The batted on mask.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
Cool.
that would be it.
that would be it.
And again, this is something to help you to focus the telescope,
Focus.
correct?
Yes.
And I know there was a nice article in Sky and Telescope within the last 6 months that showed some alternate designs for Badenoff mask and all of their cool features. And that was in Sky and Telescope just recently.
Will
This
the
month?
with the thickness of those lines better if it's thinner or larger? I mean, will the efficiency be better if it's thicker or thinner?
The size and frequency of the lines is dependent on the aperture of your telescope. The program calculates how narrow the spacing should be and how many lines you should have based on your telescope.
Cool.
Cool.
Yeah, I think
Something else
the,
One
you
of the
actually
things
don't
worth
need a
mentioning,
3D printer for this. There's a couple different websites that you can go to where you punch in the data of your telescope
Yeah.
and you can print out on a piece of paper the mask. And then if you have a couple hours and an X-Acto knife and a straight edge, you just cut it out and mount it to the front of your telescope. And it works really well.
Awesome.
Awesome. Cool. Okay. So that's pretty much question number one. And then going to question number two, I'll just go through the answers quickly because there's a lot of them. Question number two, activity you may be interested in participating. Well, it just collects pretty much what the person put in. Optical photometry education, primary is one of them. Primary observing big scopes at dark spots, big scopes at dark spots, having some special. There you go. Sorry, I'm getting old. Okay. Scopes at dark spots, secondary, having some social events like Tuesday. I think you guys are planning it already. We'll ignore the other one. Outreach seminars, the ones listed, none. Focuser control, solar filters. For that activity you may be interested in. Okay, and outreach activities for preteens. Someone's suggesting that one. Another suggesting organizing events. He'd like to volunteer. I guess that's nice. And we got a volunteer to finish the pods. That's cool.
That's awesome.
Yep, me too. I can volunteer there if I can go in. Sun spotters. Okay. Observing at Mount Cuba, again on hold due to COVID. Okay, and then star parties, meteorite, DSC sunspots, how to learn the night sky, observing sessions, learning basics of getting a telescope aligned, so electronic finding. Okay, that's interesting. I can teach them that. Online discussion lectures, do heaters, bad sun spotters upstairs. Deep sky observing at dark sites, making an ASCOM or ND driver. Ooh, okay. For question number three, some of our members answered, if you could host, lead an activity, what would it be? General astronomy, thank you. Observing at dark sites, okay. Another mentioned basic instructions for novices about getting around the night sky and basics of telescopes and binoculars. Another mentioned, I don't have the knowledge to lead any course. That's okay. We're not perfect. Okay, pass. Can supply solar film. Thank you. I need one too. I'm not sure. Okay, that's okay. I like putting, another mention, I like putting people who seek knowledge with people who have knowledge. Nice.
That's a good one.
DVD sundial. That's interesting.
That is cool.
Another mentioned show more experienced astronomers lead. Okay. Oh, should Morris? Okay. He's telling me why am I asking him? Okay. Setting up Raspberry Pis for astrophotography. That's nice. 2 heater controls. I would be very unprepared. Setting. Okay. Thank you. I'm not the right person. No problem. Digital setting circles. Mirrors making. Okay. Thanks, Dave. Landscape photography. Somebody suggesting that. Deep sky observing. 3D printing. Things related to Celestron and K-stars. That looks familiar. Okay. Question number 4. What would you like to do to help our club? What kind of special project would you like the club to start, or would you like to help with? One said, I'd like to do more educational, formational activities. I have attended activities set up in their societies. Okay. Some kind of activities out there. Okay. Next, set up a roller derby. I'll ignore that. See above. Okay. Question, no projects. Improve scopes and sawing. Nice. I'm not sure what the outreach activity, so that's okay. Another mentioned, I would like to learn how to use and make planetarium programs. Okay.
That's awesome.
Okay. I don't have any idea. Okay. So I can definitely help with mirror making and may be able to help with sunspotters. Thank you. I would like to help expand membership in DAS. I think we would need to put together a team that can find what the public is looking for in astronomy. We should also be looking at publicizing who we are. That's a good one. Star parties, nothing beyond the above items. Another mention, not sure. It's okay. Another tutorial on using mobile astronomy apps. Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Another mention, 3D printing telescope parts. Cool. That's good too. One mentioned, I wish the club had a public to-do list.
That's a good idea.
That's a very good idea.
Okay.
I wish the same thing.
But I don't know if the club needs anything. Okay. Another one mentioned, happy to be able to help sell unwanted equipment, proofread articles. Oh, nice. Thank you.
Awesome.
We could reveal, I cannot reveal who said that now, maybe with the board or maybe with the president. And I'm open to it. Okay, that pretty much, that's question number 4. Yep, that pretty much ends the survey result. Thank you so much for your time. And I think that gives us a lot of ideas on what people are expecting or hoping for or want to see. And thank you very much. Any questions?
Thanks for sharing that. One of the motivations for sharing that is, I always feel when people take a survey, it's nice that we, share what came out of it. You might not see any real strong activity right now from the survey simply because of the situation we're in, but really also just wanted to use that as a motivation to reinforce that, this is a club for everybody. And if anybody has a project or something that they have an interest in, would like to kick off, would like to lead, we're here to create the environment to facilitate that. Many hands make for light work. And my opinion is we have a club that has a lot of members and with a lot of diverse interests. And I think the more diverse activities that are going on, the stronger a club that we have. So, if anyone even had an interest in something, but maybe didn't want to quite take the lead on it, reach out to an officer, let us know. And, maybe we could find someone that would be willing to take a lead on it. So let us know, the club, again, it's here for you. So let's make the most of it.
So real quick, Jeff, I just want to show something. I did a search while we were talking about this in the focus for the micrometeorite article, and I can show you guys what it looks like. So you can find all the old focuses up on the website, and I just downloaded them and did a search. And in this focus of April 1977, which looks very interesting, it's very nice. Here's the page, how to capture a micrometeorite. High plate, you need plastic wrap, you need a magnet, you need a plastic bag, petri dish, microscope, and magnifying glass. Okay, and it just has nice instructions there telling you exactly how to do it. So I can send that out via email so that you all can check it out. It's pretty cool. All the way back from 1977.
Oh, look at that, typewritten.
Had they invented micrometeorites back then, Rob?
I don't know, but I'll send it by email and you guys can check it out. There's all kinds of great stuff like that in the old DAS archives.
Cool.
Been there since the dawn of time.
All right. Well, again, thanks again, Sid. Thanks for your thanks
you're
for
welcome. Thank
putting
you.
on
Thank
the
you for having
survey
me.
and thanks for gathering the data and sharing it with us.
You're welcome, anytime. Have a good evening.
Great. All right. Next up is me. And I'm going to be giving a talk on Saturn and Jupiter in December. First of all, is everyone seeing the screen all right?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, you could call this, not to steal Greg's thunder too much, but you could almost call this a what's up. But I, kind of just put a couple of thoughts together. This is a work in progress for something that I'm going to be doing for a Mount Cuba public night sometime in the next week or two. But it pertains to something really, really cool and interesting that's going to be happening over the next month. So with that, away I go. So I'm going to be showing a lot of screenshots from, okay, there we go. A lot of screenshots from a software package called, what's it called?
Stellarium.
Thank you. What a great way to start, Jeff. Stellarium. Stellarium is a really, really neat planetarium software that's totally free. And I believe they have versions for almost every operating system out there. So you can just Google search Stellarium and download the program for free. And what it does is it allows you to simulate what the night sky is going to look like from any location on Earth and at any date and time. So you put in a location, you put in a date and time, and it shows you what the sky will look like. And so there's a lot of cool stuff that you can do with that, depending on how time and interest leads. I wasn't planning a live demo of Stellarium. I've got a lot of screenshots, but at the end, if there's interest, we could I could pull it up and we could play around with it like that. So anyhow, I want to bring everyone's attention looking into the future of December 21st, a bit over a month from now. Right now, I clocked it at 6 p.m. and we have a little view to the southwest. And there's something really curious over here. The labeling looks like a big kind of jumbled mush of stuff. So the one nice thing that Stellarium allows you to do is to zoom in on objects, to zoom in and out to get different relative scales. So if you zoom in, actually what that clump was Jupiter and Saturn. And what's especially remarkable about Jupiter and Saturn on that day is to first off start about with a little bit of perspective. The diameter of Jupiter is 34 arc seconds across. Oh, I have a typo there, but disregard that. That's 34 arc seconds. Pretty small. Has anyone seen it? It looks like a dot by naked eye. With some magnification, you start to resolve a small disk. Saturn, on the other hand, is 17 arc seconds across in diameter. And again, these are all rough numbers, sometimes a little bigger, sometimes a little smaller. But to put those in perspective, on that date in December, what's really neat is they're actually going to be 6 arc minutes apart. Now, depending on if people are familiar with this system of measurement, obviously we measure things in the sky using angles, not sizes. So we don't say they're 3 feet apart. We measure them as angles. And so Jupiter and Saturn are going to be 6 arc minutes apart. And we'll circle back to what that really means in a second. But to put that into a broader perspective, here's the separation of Jupiter and Saturn, basically starting now and all the way into the kind of the end of December. And what you can see is the separation is getting smaller and smaller and smaller as time goes on until December 22nd, when they are the closest, and then they'll start drifting apart again. And so basically what that means is every night from now until December 22nd, Jupiter and Saturn are going to be appearing closer and closer in the sky. To put those in perspective, again, the text is a little garbled here, but here is Jupiter and Saturn superimposed over an image of the moon. Now, I want to reinforce this is not what it's going to look like. First of all, if Jupiter or Saturn ever were to eclipse the moon, we'd be in really, really big trouble. But I wanted to put that in there to give you a sense of scale that the moon is pretty small. It's about 30 arc minutes or half a degree apart. And so to give you that perspective of this, if this is how big the moon is, this is how far apart Saturn and Jupiter will appear again on December 21st. So it's really, really cool. They're going to be extremely close together. And I'll talk about some implications of that, why it happens, and what you can do about it in the next handful of slides here.
I'm interested in what you can do about it.
Right. So first of all, this is another bit of, I think this was a website that I found. I should have provided a reference to it, but there's a website that allows you to simulate the view through a telescope. So I made an example here. This is just actually it's a common one of our loaner telescopes. So this is a 6-inch Dob. The club has a couple of these for loaner. It's the scope that I have that I use for outreach, and I simulated it with a 14 millimeter 82 degree eyepiece. So you can see with a pretty basic piece of equipment, you'll be able to capture Saturn and Jupiter in the view at the same time, which is pretty cool. And if you notice, because it barely fills up much of this field of view, you could actually put some higher magnification and still capture Jupiter and Saturn in that field of view. And I believe in my next slide, I have simulated the same setup with now a 2x Barlow. So you can think of this as this is the view through this Dob with this eyepiece and a 2x Barlow, or without the Barlow, it would be a 7 millimeter eyepiece. So yeah, so really, really neat. Pretty cool to be able to see two planets through the telescope at the same time and being able to see the various moons of Jupiter while you're seeing the rings of Saturn and a couple of its moons, again, all within one view. So very, very cool, very exciting. However, there's a catch. And we're back to Stellarium. And the other nice thing that Stellarium will do is it will simulate what the light situation at that particular time of day will look like. So again, this is a view to the southwest on December 21st at 5 p.m. So you can see the sun is just about to set below the horizon. Okay, so you're not going to see any Jupiter or Saturn at this point. But then if we go an hour later, you can notice we're starting to really enter dusk. The sun is below the horizon, but you are still seeing some glow from the sun. And I don't know how well this shows up through Zoom and various people's monitor sizes, but you're just now getting a peek of Jupiter. Not sure at 6 p.m. whether you'll see it naked eye or not, but just to emphasize the fact that, okay, it's starting to poke out maybe around 6 p.m., but the sky's going to still be pretty bright at that time. Go a half an hour later to 6:30, and it's now starting to get a little bit darker. Saturn and Jupiter are now much more prominent. However, they're getting pretty low in the horizon. So the catch is the day that the Jupiter and Saturn are closest together on December 21st, they're also setting pretty early in the evening. So it's a little bit of a catch there. Arguably, you'd have great luck if you could find a location that has really, really low southwestern horizons. So that, I mean, if you did have a clear southwestern horizon, you would be able to catch this. But often, there might be trees or buildings or other things which would be obscuring the view, with it this low in the horizon. And at 7 o'clock, you can see it's, again, obviously getting darker, but Saturn and Jupiter are pretty well set at that point. So there's just that little narrow window when you can catch them. So to put into a little bit of a different context, this is a chart that just kind of arms you with some information to go about getting this. So I'm showing here in the blue dots, this is the time that Jupiter and Saturn set below the horizon. So as you can see, as we get closer and closer to the point that they're the closest, it sets earlier and earlier in the evening. But the other way to think about that is as you get further away from them being at maximum proximity, they set later and later at night. So you have a better opportunity to view them. What I'm charting down here is this is the time of so-called astronomical twilight. So basically one could argue if you have excellent horizons, as long as, the setting time is later than astronomical twilight, then you should be able to observe it. Again, the extra trick is this does not take into account, trees or other buildings to add an extra little challenge there. Was there a question bubbling through, or was that just background noise? Okay.
Yeah, one good point to make is that you don't actually have to have astronomical twilight to get a good view of Jupiter or Saturn.
Right.
Okay. Even some darkness from, just after the sun goes below the horizon with a telescope, you should still be able to see Jupiter and Saturn pretty well. And of course, you look at them in the daylight when they're washed out very badly, but you don't have to wait until astronomical twilight.
Yep.
And of course,
Great point.
Better then as well.
Great point. Yeah, so that's the balance to be played is, you got this balance between earlier or later in November, early December. They're setting later at night, but they're going to be more separated. So my argument, and I think this is what my big point in this talk is, view it from now all the way through the end of December. Every night's going to get a little bit of a different twist, but that is a great point, Bill. They are very observable, a good chunk before astronomical twilight. So I think the definition of astronomical twilight is theoretically the sky is not getting much darker after that. I mean, is that the gist of what it means?
Right. I mean, effectively, that's when there's not enough light coming from the sun to bother you.
Yeah.
Or keep sky observing.
Yep.
And that's
exactly.
a tough standard. You don't have to meet that standard for observing bright objects.
Gotcha. Cool. So again, I made a little note here that Jupiter and Saturn are setting at about, are dropping about 7 degrees an hour. So plan accordingly based on your horizon. So, if you have 10-degree or 15-degree horizons, you can do the math to then figure out, how much earlier, again, this is the setting time based on a perfect horizon. So if your horizons are obstructed, you'd have to offset it from there. Now to combine those 3 things, I'm now showing the setting time, astronomical twilight, and then bring back in green that separation. So the game here, again, what I would like to argue is, here on December 21st, they are the closest, but they're also the lowest in the sky. And even when they're above the horizon, it is going to be a little bit brighter. So, there's a balance to be held between the 2 objects being the absolute closest as possible, or earlier in the month, them being a little bit more separated, but maybe a little bit more observable because they're higher in the sky and maybe with better contrast because the sun is set a little bit more. So again, bottom line here is, there's always something to enjoy, basically from now all the way, into December 21st. Past then, basically you're getting to the point where they're going to be setting even before, like here you hit the point where they're actually setting before astronomical twilight. So definitely game over at that point. So the question of why does this happen? I'm going to argue it's a rare event. And what we're seeing here is an animation of the Earth and Jupiter and Saturn doing their little race around the sun. And you can see that Jupiter is moving around faster than Saturn. But what you'll notice is if you watch carefully, at the 20-year mark, they line up. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. and they go around and around and again. Jupiter then reaching and lapping ahead of Saturn. And as you get close to 40 years, you see that they line up again. And they keep going and churning around and around. Jupiter again lapping Saturn. The Earth buzzing around the sun year after year after year. And as you come around to 60 years, they will catch up again. And the key at 60 years, you notice they've not only met, but they've met at the same part of the sky. So the two cycles to think of is every 20 years, Jupiter and Saturn align, but then every 60 years, they align in the same part of the sky. So the big thing that I want to reinforce there is even 20 years is a pretty long time. You know, the average human lifetime doesn't have a whole lot of 20-year chunks in it. So the fact that this is happening now, I guess I'll let everyone take their own age and add 20 years to it and take the guess where they might be. So I really want to reinforce that, you know, you might want to take advantage of this opportunity because it is fairly rare. 20 years is a long time. And a little bit of math here, how you calculate that 20 years for the people that like actual numbers. So Jupiter's orbital period, you could say, is about 12 years, technically 11.862. And Saturn's orbital period, you could say, is again about 30 years, but more specifically 29.457 years. And the conjunction math tells you that if you have these two periods, the conjunction will occur according to this formula. And to use Jupiter and Saturn in this example, so you take the 11.862 and you take the 29.457, and that calculates the 19.86 or 20 years. So again, Jupiter and Saturn have what is called the Great Conjunction. Again, a conjunction is simply two objects lining up in the sky. The Great Conjunction is a special term that's reserved for the conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn. So a little history and a little bit of future of some great conjunctions, going all the way back to 1802 up till 2100. And you can see they are hitting in these, 20-year marks. And there's a couple of noteworthy ones that I would like to highlight here. The most recent one in May of the year 2000, that conjunction was difficult to see because from this part of the world, it happened during the daytime. So Jupiter and Saturn were up in the daytime. So even though they were in conjunction, they would have been very, very difficult to see. Big miss there. And this is a simulation of that. You can see here is Jupiter and Saturn. But then, oh, there's the sun. There's a special feature in the planetarium software where you can actually turn off the effects of the sun. So even though this is during the daytime, Jupiter and Saturn would have been clearly washed out with the sun above the horizon. So 2000 wasn't a great year for the Great Conjunction. The other interesting one is the one that's happening this year. And the key thing here is this is at a 6 arc minute, or what would that be, a 1/5 of a degree? No, a 1/12 of, oh boy, a 1/10 of a degree. There we go. A 1/10 of a degree. That is the closest conjunction since 1623. And if you just do a quick scan through here, you notice a lot of the conjunctions are far more separated than the one that we're getting this year. Looks like we're going to have another really close one in 2080. But again, I'll leave it to everyone to do their age math to maybe emphasize the point that this is really the year for the Great Conjunction. The next one I want to highlight is the next one that we're going to have, though, in November of 2040. Well, reasonable chance a good chunk of us could be around still to see that. Noting, first of all, the conjunction is going to be much, much further apart, a degree and change, so more than double the diameter of the moon. But nonetheless, this is what it will look like. But once again, it might be hard to make out here. There's Saturn, there's Jupiter. But again, this is at 5:30 at night. There's the sun. So 20 years from now, we will have a conjunction, but again, you're not going to be able to see it. And if we go out 40 years from now to the year 2060, now we have another conjunction. This one's happening at 8:30 at night, and there is no sun. So again, I don't mean to be really, really grim and doomful here, but I'm not sure too many of us are still going to be here in 80 years. So again, I would just extra urge that this year is really a cool year for the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction. So, really get out and appreciate it. Yeah, this will be on April 10th. So, make sure you set a reminder in your calendar. But it's the year 2060.
Very funny.
Another interesting one, back in 1981, I was 5 years old, so have no memory of this, but there was a interesting conjunction, which you see come up a couple of times here, which is called a triple conjunction. And actually what that means is over the course of maybe 6 months, you actually get the conjunction 3 times. So rather than having to wait 20 years for the next one, they actually come in pairs. And the reason for that is actually due to retrograde. So what you're seeing is an animation of Jupiter and Saturn where each frame is advancing in 5-day intervals. So you can see Jupiter and Saturn moving along as normal. And you can see as they move along, they're also starting to separate. And then all of a sudden, you hit retrograde. So because of retrograde, then they're getting closer together again, and you get another conjunction. And as the animation clicks along, you can see they're then moving further and further apart. So yeah, so basically you can look up the triple conjunctions. I don't have a whole lot of extra details here, but the key is you get about 3 of them over the course of about 6 months. So kind of neat. I don't know if anyone happened to catch that back in 1981, but looks like we're not going to be having another one of those for, anytime soon. But still pretty cool. So some tips, Sheila asked, hey, okay, so what the heck, what can we do with this? I'd argue, go out and visually observe Saturn and Jupiter, see day by day as they're getting closer and closer. But I think the really cool thing is to be able to observe both of them at the same time through your telescope, where again, you start to see the details. You see Saturn's rings, you see Jupiter's moons, things we've seen tons of times, but rarely what I think we've seen them in the same field of view. So again, a little bit of charting and math here. What I would argue is start with your scope's widest eyepiece, figure out what the field of view is, and if your field of view, for example, is 1.5 degrees, that starting on December 5th, Saturn and Jupiter will be just barely within that field of view. And as the days go on from there, they will remain within that field of view. So you don't have to actually wait until the great conjunction in December 21st. You can actually start to catch the 2 of them in your telescope way earlier than that. So if anyone wants to do the math to figure out when they can start to catch the 2 in their eyepiece, just for anyone that doesn't understand how you calculate your field of view, you need to get a couple of key pieces of information. One, you need the focal length of your telescope. This is just an example down here of some achromatic refractor with a 988 millimeter focal length. And then you get the focal length of your eyepiece. And then you get what's called the apparent field of view of that eyepiece. And you take those 3 numbers and you mush them into this equation here. And for this example, this eyepiece combined with this telescope gives you a true field of view of about 1.6 degrees. And so that was the example that I used here. So with this telescope and this eyepiece, basically from December 6th or 7th onwards, you should be able to capture both Saturn and Jupiter within the same field of view. Obviously, as they start getting closer and closer, you can up your magnification and go to a shorter focal length eyepiece and then get more magnified views while you're seeing the both of them at the same time. So here's just another little chart to help give you some information. Again, I'm showing the separation of Jupiter and Saturn over the days. And this gives you the altitude of them at twilight. Twilight, basically, just another bit of information to show that there's this compromise between them getting closer and closer together, but setting earlier and earlier and earlier. So you could use this information if you had an understanding of your horizons. And if you knew what your horizon limitation is, that could also give you a cutoff for when you should get out and see them. And this is just another chart showing if you know what your horizon is, this is what the separation is going to be over time. Again, just some extra charts to arm you with the power to map out what's going to be happening over the next month and when would be the best time, for you to get out to see them. So a couple of conclusions here. The great conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn is really cool. It's going to be the last one visible from this side of the planet for another 40 years. The one that I mentioned in 2020, obviously it will be visible from the other side of the world. So that's another thing to keep in mind. Although I don't hear people traveling for conjunctions as much as I hear people traveling for eclipses. But the caveat is it's going to be low in the sky near the horizon. So the best way to observe it would be to seek out a good western horizon and then try to find a telescope so you can resolve the two of them and get a view of both of them at the same time. And again, the focus here is even though the actual date of greatest conjunction, they're going to be pretty low in the sky, observe them in the days leading up to the conjunction as it will be setting later in the night and therefore tolerate worse horizons and actually see them when it's darker. And I'd say start observing them with a telescope when your widest eyepiece will fit the two objects in the same field of view. That's all that I had to share. So happy to take any questions or clarifications.
Yeah, Jeff, just a couple comments. Your presentation is sort of based on the fact of seeing it with naked eye, after the sun sets or close to sunset.
Yep.
I've seen Jupiter many, many, many times in broad daylight. A pair of 7x50 binoculars will easily show it to you. And if the conditions are right, you can see it naked eye. So I would recommend that people, if you know where to look, you can start now in the daytime and see it. And you can put a telescope on it. And I've seen Saturn in the daytime with a telescope, and you can see the rings and you can see detail on Jupiter. So you can see these things well before the sun sets. And an easy technique that I use is if you look at the back of your binoculars, most binoculars will say what the field of view is. It'll say typical 7x50 binoculars are 5 degrees. So if you look up, if you got a planetarium program, it'll tell you what the altitude and azimuth is at that particular time. And you can use then you can calculate what the difference is between Jupiter and say the sun, which I use all the time. So you put the sun behind something, so you're not going to look at it binoculars by mistake, but you know where it is. And then you can just step off a number of fields of views of your binoculars. So it's, 25 degrees and azimuth and 10 degrees in altitude from the sun. You can just step off 5 fields of view one way and 2 up and search around a little bit, and bingo, you'll see them. So you, like I said, you could see these things in broad daylight and get a head start on before the sun sets.
Cool. Good point, Dave. And yeah, again, just the big thing I want to emphasize that he had mentioned is, be very careful because you do not want to point even binoculars at the sun. So, great advice to make sure, mask it behind something, because sometimes when you're looking through a telescope or binoculars, you don't really know where you're pointing. and you could inadvertently get the sun, and that would be really bad news. So yeah, great idea to have it, position yourself so it's hidden behind something. So you lower that chance.
I put the sun behind my house.
Yeah.
So I can't do it. So there's no way I can point my binoculars at the sun. It's blocked by my house, but I could step off so many fields of view one way and so many fields of view another way. And like I said, I've easily seen Jupiter many, many, many times in broad daylight. And when the conditions are right, if you know where to look, you could see it naked eye also.
Cool.
Hey, Jeff.
Sir.
I'm just curious. So that was great, by the way. That was really, really crystal clear and interesting and all good things. I'm just curious, how did you get the data into, I guess it looks like a spreadsheet, like an Excel plot from Stellarium to, I mean, I can understand how to do that in any given day, but how do you do that?
So yeah, I can show you. So actually I just, great segue. I decided, yeah, why don't I do a little live Stellarium demo, and I can show folks how to do that. So first of all, let me just show people, let me get the Stellarium website up. We'll start there. So bear with me a second.
Quick note as we're bearing with you, the Geminids are coming up December 13th and 14th, I believe. So some other things to
I'm sorry. Hey, Jeff.
try in the sky during that time.
Yep.
Jeff.
Oh, I'm hearing somebody.
It's Terry.
Oh, hey, Terry.
So you couldn't get the sky dark and light. I have a demo up here from Starry Nights. I can go from light to dark and show people what the sky looks like if you'd like.
Cool. Yeah, let's do that. But I want to show people the Stellarium option because that's the free one, and then you could we'll let you take the helm. And so if you just do a Google search for Stellarium, the great thing about Google is you don't even have to spell things properly. And so it takes you to stellarium.org, and you can go there, and right up top is the latest version, Linux, all types of Linux, Mac OS, Windows 32, 64. So, if you go to the Windows 64, it starts to download it and you are off and running. So then if I minimize this, here is Stellarium. And again, I just want to make sure that, are you guys seeing the Stellarium window okay?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So the key thing of any planetarium software is your ability to go in and set the date and time. So let's go to let's go to December 21st and let's back it up and let's get into the right part of the sky. That's all right. Taking the long way there.
Note, we can't see the window you're clicking on.
Do you not see Stellarium?
We see Stellarium, but we don't see the window.
Say it again.
If there's a window you have on top of that with date and time, we don't see that.
Do you see it now?
No, we just see Stellarium.
All right, give me a second. Let me stop sharing and see if I can find a better way to share. I'm sharing my whole desktop, so I would think you would see what I'm seeing, but maybe not. Are you seeing date and time now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Thank you for that heads up. So yeah, so here we are at about 3:15 on the day. So if we start jumping an hour at a time, sun is set. There's Jupiter and Saturn again. They're kind of mushed together. So I can scroll my mouse to get closer and closer and actually separate and resolve them. And there they are. To Dave's comment, let me show you a couple of other tricks. If I rewind back in time, so Dave mentioned observing Jupiter and Saturn during the day. They're up there, but Stellarium is rendering the sky washed out because of the sun.
I'm still seeing the sun. Sorry to interrupt. I don't know if others are.
Yeah, we can't. Yeah.
What are you not seeing?
It's not moving.
It's a frozen screen with the sun and the date and the time.
Yeah, that's all I'm showing.
Started with.
Bear with me here. Let me try something.
I think we're seeing Jeff's cursor, which makes
So,
it seem like
do you see
the
is the sun gone away now? Is it now dark?
No.
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 Okay, so this is, all right, Stellarium must not be happy with Zoom, so.
Okay, it is frozen. Okay.
One note, it's an awesome
Okay,
program.
now it just,
Night fell.
yeah,
So did it work for a second there?
yeah, just when you cut out.
Let me try one more time. I appreciate everyone's, what's it look like now?
Okay, now it's dark.
Okay, and and what do you, is it frozen again?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I think I know what the trick is, so bear with me. So all I've done is it's still 3 o'clock. There's the sun, but there's an option in Stellarium where it's called you turn off the atmosphere. So the sun is still shown, but it doesn't wash out the sky. And so here's Saturn and Jupiter up here. So what Dave was saying is, if you can find, Dave, you were arguing to find the separation between the sun and Saturn.
Yes.
Okay, the way you can do that, and again, I don't know what's going to happen with me live manipulating Stellarium, but there's an option, there's add-ins that you can do, and those add-ins allow you to measure the angular distance between objects. And again, I'm going to attempt to do it, but we'll see what happens. And if it doesn't work live, how does that look? Can you see that blue line?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
So I've measured the angular distance between, again, the conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter and the sun, and it's showing me that it's 30 degrees, 18 arc minutes apart. And again, you can access that angle tool. If you Google search how to do this in Stellarium, there's a guide, there's an add-on that you have to activate, and then it'll work fine. Again, I only stumbled on it by doing some Googling. So that's what Dave was suggesting, is that you would go in and you could get then that distance between the sun and the conjunction. And I think, Dave, what you were saying is if you know your Renox are 5 degrees, then you've got 6 field of views between the sun and the conjunction.
Correct. But what I usually do is not that separation, but I get the altitude and azimuth of the sun and the altitude and azimuth of Jupiter and Saturn at this particular time. And so you go X and Y per se.
Gotcha.
Because right now you've got an arc to follow, and that's a little bit more difficult to do in the sky versus going straight across horizontally and then going up.
Yep, that makes sense. So what Dave is suggesting is in Stellarium, if you click on an object, this will probably be really hard for people to make out, but when you click an object, you get this red crosshair, and then up here is some information. It probably shows up teeny tiny on your screen, but when you guys do it yourselves, it shows you the, it gives you the RA and the deck, but it also gives you the alt-as. So right now the sun is 11 degrees in altitude and 226 degrees in azimuth. And so Dave was saying, okay, well, so remember the sun's at 11 degrees. And then you do the same thing for the conjunction and find out that they are at 27 degrees. So then you know that these are 16 degrees higher in the sky in altitude than the sun. And you do the same thing with the azimuth, subtract the two, and that allows you to kind of march over from one to the other. So play around with Stellarium. If people needed some help with Stellarium, I'd say, hey, maybe come to one of the astronomy workshops and maybe we could try to do a little quick demo to help. Because I think it's a great tool to arm you with how you would go about, trying to prepare for this conjunction and figure out the best time to see it. Just the other little trick, kind of addressing what Rick said, what Rick was asking, if I zoom in so that I can actually resolve the two objects. Let me stop time. Come on. All right, well, anyhow, I'm going to measure the separation between these two. And again, are you seeing that now?
Yep.
Yeah.
So now this is showing me that at the Great Conjunction, they're 6 arc minutes apart. And I think, Rick, your question was, how did I get that day by day?
Yeah, I mean, I can see doing it by hand day by day, but that would be a little tedious.
Yes, that's what I did.
Okay.
Because basically what I would do is I would just, in Stellarium, it's pretty easy to advance it by a day and then remeasure it. I mean, it probably took me 15 minutes to do it.
No, I can see that. No,
Yeah.
Obviously for a one-off with, 20 days, you can imagine doing it, but it would get old if you were to do a number of examples like that.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, maybe more advanced software allows some more tools to do that more automated, but I'm nowhere. I don't have software, nor am I nowhere near shrewd enough to So I did it the brute force way.
Yeah, you and me both, for sure. Yeah, I could never do it.
Cool.
Can you do a plate solving with Stellarium?
I'll let anybody else answer that question.
No, it doesn't take, you don't put images into it, so it's not going to plate solve images.
Stellarium is just a planetarium program. It doesn't have any astrophotography capability.
Now, Terry, were you saying that you had something that maybe that you wanted to try to share using a different software?
Do I have my volume?
Before we leave Stellarium, the one thing, it actually does have a pretty useful function for astrophotography. In the upper right corner, you can set the field of view for your eyepieces, but you can also set the field of view for cameras. You can go in and put all the camera dimensions for all the cameras you own and any extra magnifiers you may have, and pick those things off, and then see how any image frames in your particular camera. I do that all the time, deciding what images to take and what reducers to use and how to frame them.
Oh, so Bill, so Stellarium can even simulate the field of view through a camera or an eyepiece.
That's right.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the images that I shared in my presentation actually came from a website, so it would have been a lot easier had I known that. That's cool.
It's a little bit more of just drawing a rectangle on the sky so you know what the framing is going to be.
Yep.
But still, it tells you what you're going to see.
Cool. Yeah, again, I would argue for people, go out there, get Stellarium. It's free. I mean, in the worst case scenario, you can't figure it out and you haven't spent any money. But on the flip side, use the groups.io. Say, hey, I'm trying to figure out X in Stellarium. Maybe people can jump in and help you out, or jump into one of our astronomy workshops on the off Tuesdays. And, it is a really, really great tool to plan out your observing. So good ad, Bill. Thanks for that.
Any prophecies associated with this conjunction?
As I was doing some research into it, there is some stuff around, like a lot of these weird events,
Wait a minute. There will be political unrest.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I can make up some typically generic horoscope generalities.
Right.
On that day, people will wake up in the morning and have breakfast.
Hopefully. Like the Aztec end of the world from 2012.
Yeah. I mean, and you really think
that
so
was the Mayan calendar, and they were wrong. They were off. It wasn't really 2012.
I thought they just ran out of space.
Right.
Yeah. They ran out of time. Or space time, perhaps.
So Terry, did you wanna do some sharing at this point?
Yeah, I can show you the sun going down. You can see the difference between the times. Let me see if I can do this. We'll come here and I'll share, and we'll do that and that. So now do you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, I see my screen too. Okay.
Cool.
So Bill was talking about field of view.
So Terry, first of all, what software is this?
Oh, this is Starry Night Pro.
Got it. This is not free, correct?
Everybody kind of has
It's not.
binoculars, so we'll choose binoculars, and here's 7x50s. So you can see that Jupiter and Saturn are within 7x50s, easily. And if you scoot your field down, you might even get Pluto in there. Probably not, but just knowing that it's there, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll close this up and we'll make the sun go down. Here we go. So that was 4:45. Here's 5, getting darker. Here's 5:30, getting darker, getting close to the horizon. So by 6 o'clock, I don't think you'd have any problem. And as Dave said, that even when the sun is on the horizon at 4:45, I'm sure you'd be able to see them with binoculars easily, even though it's pretty bright. So there's 6 o'clock and 6:05, So there's 6:30, pretty close to 6:30 anyway. It's on the horizon. If you didn't have a clear horizon, you wouldn't be able to see it. But notice that here's Neptune I saw, and then the moon is up here. So this would be pretty cool. On the 22nd at 6:30, you have Jupiter and Saturn and Neptune here and the moon here. That'd be a pretty good view. Of course, you really wouldn't be able to make out Neptune without a telescope, but you know it's there, right? And that was it. I just wanted to show everybody the sun going down because we were talking about what you can see and what you couldn't see at different times.
Excellent. Thanks, Terry.
Nice.
Yep, you're welcome.
The bottom line still is, for all intents and purposes, you need a low western horizon.
Yep, it will always help.
That's the tough.
Well, yeah, that is that's definitely true. Let's back up. So we'll back up. We'll make everything go back up. So here's 6 o'clock. Need a horizon at this point. That wouldn't be a big deal.
Yeah, it's still pretty low.
It's pretty dark and it's well above the horizon at this point. Even Pluto's above the horizon. So with binoculars, you wouldn't have any problem with it.
I think, Terry, the point is it's above an ideal horizon.
Yes, exactly. I was just going to say that's not the horizon that most people have. You have to go somewhere to get that low a western horizon, even there. Most people do.
These are standard size trees here. I mean, if you just look at the size of the trees compared to where it is at 5:30.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not too bad.
What is the altitude of them at this point, Terry? Can you pull that?
Probably. The question is, where is it? That's Saturn.
There it is. 12 degrees.
That's one of the moons. So what's the altitude? I don't have my glasses on.
12, 1, 2. 12 degrees altitude.
Oh, 12 degrees, I see it. Okay, I had to squint a little extra harder.
Okay.
So yeah, 12 degrees above the horizon.
Yeah, see, that's still, in my book, that's low.
Yeah.
Well, if you're looking over this beautiful lake.
Yes, well, I think I'll go there.
There you go.
I didn't mention it in my talk, but also another big nod to all the astrophotographers out there that, this will also, be a pretty cool opportunity. I guess, has anyone seen a conjunction through a telescope ever? I mean, again, I think if I looked at my chart, like there really hasn't been one, because I think the one back in 80, hang on a second. Yeah, the one back in 1980, they were still a degree apart at the greatest conjunction. So
one could say that we have seen conjunctions with the sun, which becomes an occultation.
Right.
Like with Venus and the sun.
Yeah, the transits.
Yeah.
Mercury, boy, yeah, we've been lucky enough to see both those Venus transits and the two Mercury transits. That's pretty fantastic.
Absolutely.
Cool. So any other questions or comments about the conjunction? Again, I would argue we've got the tools, we've got the astronomy workshop, we've got the groups.io. Let's continue to stay in touch and, share tips and tricks for how we can make the most of it.
So Jeff, was there a conclusion on of the several ranked topics for the workshop about which one might end up being implemented, or is this?
I didn't want to go there at this point. Really wasn't sharing that information, not to maybe say, okay, well, now we're going to do X. Just a bit preliminary there. Just wanted to say, hey, this is what we found from the survey, and didn't want to jump to any conclusions too quickly from it.
It would be interesting, and I apologize if we discussed this at some meeting that I forgot about. If we could look at the various suggestions,
yes,
see which ones could be implemented at home. And
right.
Did we discuss this already? But I mean, just like send out a list of, buy this stuff from Amazon or wherever, have it in your house by Tuesday, January, whatever. And then we'll have an impresario on Zoom take us through it. It wouldn't be as much fun as doing it together, but it wouldn't require holding off until next whenever.
Yep, agreed. Well, I mean, case in point, I'll throw out a silly example. Like, even though capturing micrometeoroids was pretty low in the list, it's also probably one of the easiest ones.
Right.
So like to Rob said, why not shoot out an email to everyone saying, hey, here's how you do it, and maybe people report back, and they were able to.
Well, yeah, and I agree with everything you just said. The one way to augment it would be, I mean, that is more or less a fairly fun, it looks fun anyway, individual activity. I'm thinking more of things like, I personally would need help making these DSCs.
Right.
And if I had the gizmos, in other words, if I had the equipment in my house and we all had the shopping list, it would, to me, it would really be a blast to have Dave or whomever sort of take us through that.
It is something to be mindful of. If there is something that we could do a virtual workshop for a DIY construction project, it would certainly behoove us to do so. It would just take the right type of project to do that. And then we'll have to brainstorm about how. And if, again, the key point is, if anyone has an idea, and it doesn't have to be one of the 5 or 6 listed in the survey. I think the name of the game right now in quarantine is things are certainly not like they used to be, but through creativity, we can find some activities that give us some semblance of normal and keep us busy and distracted and all that good stuff.
Well, I guess concretely, I'd like to suggest, not to push this, but maybe at the next board meeting, then we actually look at that list and see if there is a way to concretely implement one or more of those remotely. I mean, obviously it might be tough. Like, we don't have to have a soldering iron, for example. Okay, well, it's a nuisance, but we can do it.
Absolutely.
It's a finite, inexpensive item to actually purchase, and we won't have anybody to sort of guide our hand, but
yep,
I don't know, it could work.
It's a great thought. It's a great thought. And that's, the survey was really the reason, like Sid mentioned, like we did it several months ago, but it's like, okay, let's kick the dust off of it and see if there's something actionable that could come out of it. So I could not agree more, Rick. Good thought, and keep poking us and prodding us on that, because.
And now that we've got some stuff out on the table, Rick, you've got an interest in the setting circles, throw a message on Groups IO, say, hey, we're talking about this. Anybody else interested in, getting something concrete together? Maybe bring it up at a Tuesday night call.
Yeah, well, what I was thinking is really, maybe the board meeting, just because it's a smaller group and not everybody may want to dig into it, but I think I would propose that we actually go down that list, and of course, any other ideas that people have. And for example, we can't really do 3D printing in that way because we would all need a 3D printer, which I assume some of us don't have. But others perhaps could be done. And, we could be hunkered down like this for months and months and months.
Yep.
So let's look for ways to pursue a little construction project at home.
Yep.
Perfect. Good motivation, Rick. I agree wholeheartedly.
Yep. That is one of the reasons we were discussing them in the first place in the board meeting, was to see if we could start some of these and also to make plans for when the pandemic is over. Unfortunately, many of the ones on that list are ones that we can't do easily in the pandemic. We'd have a lot of trouble doing them remotely. So that's one of the reasons we haven't implemented them yet. But some of them, maybe we could, so we can explore them further.
And again, not every activity has to be capable of everyone. So, I mean, maybe there's only a fraction of the club that has and is comfortable using a soldering iron. So, okay, maybe we pick an activity that is then self-selective to that. And, you can't, no activity is perfect for everybody in the club. And, you shouldn't use that as a reason to not do it. So.
Yeah. And you can certainly teach people to use a soldering iron remotely. I mean, it's really,
right.
Everybody here is quite capable of, doing a rudimentary soldering joint, for example. So I think we could push it. Anyway, maybe.
Cool. All right. So maybe the last thing for today, I just wanted to wrap up. And again, really free-form discussion. A couple of people have mentioned that we do have the Geminid meteor shower coming up. So I guess, I haven't really looked into a whole lot. Is there anyone that has any good details or a couple of, tips and tricks that they'd like to mention about the Geminids?
Dress warmly.
Yeah.
That's my tip.
I have a couple of
I believe the moon's going to be new at that time.
That's right.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But also the peak is predicted to occur around 10 p.m. In terms of the peak meteorite strike rate, not our visibility of it.
Got
You
it.
actually still will do better a little later, but the Geminids is one of those showers that puts out quite a few meteors before midnight. You don't have to wait.
We've been skirting around the date, guys. Should someone throw a date out there?
December 13th, the night of, going into the morning of the 14th.
Thank you.
But especially you want to be looking, around midnight on December 13th. Don't wait till December 14th and go out at night and say, hey, where are the Geminids? Too late.
Yep.
That's
Go out on
Sunday
the
night.
13th.
And for those who
Sunday night.
don't know, the best plan for observing a meteor shower is to like lie back and just keep your eyes open and look everywhere at the same time.
Mhm.
But the
Look
most
up.
important places are about 90 degrees away from the radiant. So if you see Gemini here, look like 90 degrees in each direction. Don't look right at Gemini, look to the
Yeah.
sky, and you're more likely to see.
Yeah, the great thing about a meteor shower is absolutely no equipment needed other than maybe a comfortable chair. And again, preferably something that reclines,
Mhm.
and warm clothing, right, Sheila?
Yes, indeed.
I remember a couple of years back, Greg Lee and I had attempted to do a Geminid program for Fair Hill Park. And, they advertised it and they had people sign up. And sure enough, in this part of the weather in this region, Greg and I were out there at, 8 or 9 or 10 o'clock at night. It was bitter, bitter cold and as cloudy as all get out. And we had probably 4 to 6 very, very brave participants that were bound and determined to come out. And basically Greg and I did our little tap dance, without being able to see them. And we just did a little, 15, 20-minute lesson on meteor showers
Mhm.
and stood around in sickening optimistic hope that the clouds would part, which they never did.
Yep. Yeah,
So I
I've
checked the
done.
weather forecast and it's supposed to be clear that night this year. So
It's a little early to be optimistic about that, hon. Sorry. Never know. I've done, my share of frigid Geminid programs too. And boy, that's why the first thing out of my mouth is always dress warmly, because man.
the flip side though, Bill, wasn't it the Geminids that you and I did a bunch of years ago at Fair Hill Park? Bill and David?
I'm thinking that was a warm weather one, if you're talking to me.
Okay. That was maybe one of the other ones.
Yeah.
Probably
it was something.
Perseids then.
Yeah.
Okay. But I thought I remember doing the Geminids. For some reason, it's in my mind that Rich LeMay was there. So
Oh
again,
yeah, back in
Wow.
2013, we had a member star party for the Geminids.
and that one was really good.
It was at Cheslin.
Yeah, I think we had new moon and it was also good weather that night, if I remember correctly.
Yes, it was clear.
Yeah.
I remember I was sick as a dog and I missed it and I was upset.
Yeah.
Mm. You don't get those conditions
Yeah.
in conjunction with one another very often.
Yep. And just, the other thing to keep in mind, dark skies certainly help meteor showers. They're not essential. There's something to be said for sitting on your back deck for as you get cold, thirsty, need the restroom, whatever, you can pop in. But if you're willing to brave it, darker skies will gain you fainter meteorites, which means you'll see more of them. So, there's that balance to play in there as well.
I can tell you that one year it was really cold out, and I just sat inside by my sliding glass door and looked out into the dark part of the sky for a couple of hours and saw plenty of Gemini meteors. So
Awesome.
that's my backyard.
Oh, dude, that's cheating. Come on.
Well, it's
You gotta
fun watching
suffer.
the sky. It's how long you watch the sky and how big an area you're able to see, and of course clarity and moonlight. But
Yeah.
if you don't actually spend some time watching, you're not that likely to see meteors.
You're
Never
absolutely
discount the
right.
importance of comfort.
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
Cool. So again, two big events coming up. December 13th is in the night of the December 13th, the peak of the Geminid meteor shower. And then December 21st is the great conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter. But obviously for, I would say at least a week before, Saturn and Jupiter will be pretty darn close, so get some telescopes out, get some binoculars out and enjoy the conjunction, and then put down the telescope binoculars and on December 13th, hopefully catch the meteor shower.
The other thing too, Jeff, is, you can observe, quote unquote, observe meteorites or meteors with a radio also, because they will, when they go through, they ionize the atmosphere, and a distant station all of a sudden will come in that you couldn't hear before. So even if it's cloudy, that's another experiment somebody can try if you want, is to do that, to see if you can hear them per se.
So the meteor shower enhances distant radio signals?
Yeah, it ionizes when the meteor goes through the atmosphere. Of course, it ionizes the atmosphere, and like an AM radio station that's distant will, because that's ionized, that those radio waves will get reflected off of that ionized trail, and all of a sudden you'll hear the station. So that's another way of doing it. If you can Google it on the internet and what frequencies to use and stuff like that. But that's another way of observing meteors, even if it's cloudy or it's too cold or whatever.
Okay.
Terry, have you done that? Have you done the radio observation thing?
Yes, you can do that. Okay, I'm on. I just want to make sure I wasn't muted there. On using ham radio, you can do the same thing.
Right.
You have special software that you can run, and you tune to frequencies that people will try to use. And you can make contacts farther away than you normally would be able to without the meteors. They only last for a couple seconds because obviously, zip, and they're done. I can do that imitation of a meteor once again.
Please.
I need a visual.
Wait. Okay, zip, and they're done. Okay.
Yeah, we had to have a visual there.
Right, so I was running software to capture this automatically and let it run all night. So did a friend of mine that's across the street from me, basically. And in the last couple nights, there have been very few meteor scatter radio contacts, anyway, that we recorded. So it wasn't a very good Leonid. I know there's only supposed to be like 10 an hour.
Yeah, something like
There
that.
wasn't even 10 an hour radio contact. So maybe it wasn't as good as it was supposed to be.
All right. Very cool.
That's neat.
All right, well, that's all we had for tonight, unless anybody else has something that they'd like to mention.
Refreshments.
Yeah. Let's all go for a beer.
There you go.
Are you saying we're all a bunch of mixed nuts?
Pretty much. Seriously, guys, some night we really should just all crack a beer together after the meeting. Together remotely.
Yes.
If you will. I think that'd be a riot.
Simultaneously is maybe the word.
Thank you. Yes, that is exactly the word.
I thought that's what Tuesday nights were for.
They used to be.
Exactly. Cool. Well, hey, obviously people are willing to hang out, but that's all the formal programming we had for tonight. Again, stay tuned. Again, please, continue. DAS is not just about the third Tuesday of every night. We have our astronomy workshops. We have the groups.io. Please make the most of it. Try to use these tools to bring us together while we're in this separation, in this quarantine. I would love to see some discussions get kicked up over groups.io around the Great Conjunction or the meteor shower or building, Badnov masks or, whatever else people have interest in. And then there's the, the astronomy workshop. So, while we're not getting together at Mount Cuba any longer, there's still plenty of tools to allow us to connect. So let's take advantage of them.
Be sure to reach out too. If you're interested in just about anything in astronomy, we have people, we have resources, and we can connect you to them and help you out. So be sure to just reach out.
Cool. All right, well, with that, have a great night, everybody. Again, either see you on groups.io at a Tuesday workshop or save that. We'll see you next month at the December meeting.